If you're ready, we probably should start talking.
Welcome. This is Intellikia Center, and this is our talk on
living from 5D and above.
And I'm going to this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Learn to see the bigger picture in life from the 5th dimension and above. In this talk, we will discuss concepts and tools that are available once you begin to shift from the world of duality to the world of oneness. So, I'd like to start with a just a little guided imagery so that we can all just get here present. So just get comfortable in your chair and close your eyes. And we just want to kind of be here now. So feel the chair underneath you, feel your body and the clothes on your body, and just allow yourself to relax. And just relax and take a deep breath. Just take a slow, deep breath. And another. You can go in through your nose and out through your mouth. And one more. And just imagine yourself in a beautiful bubble of light. And just feel yourself floating calmly, relaxed, relaxing all parts of your body. Your feet, your legs, your shoulders. Just allow yourself to relax and let go of the day. Take another deep breath. Just let go of all the things that happened today. And just know that right here, right now, everything is in divine, perfect order. Right here, right now, peace, calm. Take another slow, deep breath. And again, being fully present here in the room, bringing your attention here to our talk, and allow yourself from this space to slowly open your eyes and be here now. Well, again, welcome everyone. Welcome. Glad you made it.
That was a great visualization. I was doing good till my bubble started going downhill.
I like a bubble around me all the time. It just kind of feels fun.
I think you have one.
And relaxing, yeah.
We all do. It's called our auric field. All right. 5D and above, or to the universe and beyond, however you want to think of it tonight. But there is something you need to know. You've all heard us talk about oneness before. But this comes from Anthony de Mello, and Anthony de Mello is a 20th century Indian Catholic mystic. Right? It says, to walk alone. That means to walk away from every formula. The ones given to you by others, the ones you learned from books, the ones that you yourself invented in the light of your own past experiences. This is possibly the most terrifying thing a human being can do. Move into the unknown, unprotected by any formula. To walk away from the world of human beings, as the prophets and the mystics did, is not to walk away from the company of those humans, but from their formulas. Then, even though you are surrounded by people, you are truly and utterly alone. What an awesome solitude. That solitude, that aloneness, is silence. It is only this silence that you will see. And the moment you see, you will abandon every book and guide and guru. And that's what it really means to move fully into 5D. You have, and formulas in his word translates to belief systems in my words. All right, so all those things that you were taught about how life works, even in metaphysics, and we've touched on this previously, even what you were taught in the metaphysical community, set those formulas aside for now. They will sort of work in 5D. Most of them will not. Vision boarding, goal setting, all of that are things that are going to be moving away from you as you enter this dimension.
Well, and one of the things that we've talked about as well is that we come from a space of how do you live knowing what oneness is and still live in today. You know, how do you do that? How do you have one foot be in the world but not of the world? How do you balance those two things? And we call these talks advanced metaphysics, and we do that intentionally because you still need to know all the basics, because that's part of how you play the game. You need to understand about chakras and what is reincarnation and karma and all those things, because there are levels at which all of that works, and knowing that is important. And as you grow and you move, and what we are going to do every single week that we're here is we hope to challenge everything you've been taught, to make you move beyond that, to make you go to the next step. How do I go to the next level of that, right? And so it's not to say that that stuff's wrong, but the analogy that you gave last time was the elephant. You might want to say it again just in case they didn't watch last time.
Or they weren't here.
Or they weren't here last time.
All right. What she's talking about is you may or may not have heard the story of the 3 blind men and an elephant. All right. Well, 3 blind men came upon an elephant. See it. So they're trying to describe it to each other, and one of them's got a hold of the trunk, and he says, no, this animal is like a hose. All right, and they said, no, he's got a hold of the leg, it's like a tree. And then the third one says, he's got the tail, he says, no, it's like a rope. None of them knew what it was, because they could only see, sense, feel, pick a word, the part they had a hold of, the part, their one little area. Now, I will tell you, you take a hose, a tree, and a rope, you still don't have an elephant, do you? You've got 3 very different items. So what it takes is to be able to step back or rise up to see the whole picture. And that's really one of the most important tools you can ever have, even if you're in 3D. It's a very important there, but it's even more so in 5D, is to develop the observer self inside of you. Right? You've heard us say this over and over. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your body. Right?
And you're not your experiences.
And you're not your experiences. You're not your story.
Right. You're not your story.
It's just a story that you have that's pretty specific to this body. And there's more stories than that. But to step back, when you're driving down the road and that delightful Son of God, child of God, cuts you off, step back. Who is frustrated? Who is scared? Who is angry? Who is experiencing that? But it's not. It's your body. That's the catch. No, it is not you. And this is going to be one of the biggest things that has to take place as we move into 5D, is lose the identities that you have given to yourself that are not you. Now you say, what's an identity? Body, mother, father, son, daughter, employee, employer, anything like that that we can come up with. We have turned it into an identity, right? For me, I'll typically say, give you my age. That's not my identity. It's something that it's actually not my age, it's the age of this body. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think a good visualization to help start to develop your observer self is, and I mentioned it again previously, but it's literally imagine there's a wall, a low wall, so you can still see across and you can still see what's happening, but almost move over the wall and watch it play out rather than jumping in. So it's the difference between being proactive and reactive, right? If we're in the middle of a fight or an argument, we're all going, and we're in the heat of it. If you can take a deep breath, step over that low wall and watch it like an observer is watching it from the outside. Sometimes you can physically do that, where you can literally go, you know, this isn't going anywhere, and step away from the situation. Other times you can just sit and kind of do it in your mind and pull yourself out of the chaos that's in 3D. And when you do that, it starts to open that picture bigger. Because like with the elephant, if you can get above the elephant, or you can back up from the elephant, you can see what it is much clearer. And when you can see the dynamics and what's taking place in a situation much clearer, you don't react to the situation the way you would if you're right in the heart of it. So if that helps you, that helps me a lot. That visualization of literally a low wall, just step back in your mind away from the drama of 3D and try to see it from a little bit different perspective. And then that can help you not identify with the drama, not be right in the heart of the drama.
And once you step back from the drama, you can step back from the judgments you have about what's going on. Right? And this is the next thing, is really letting go of judgments. Left, right, good, bad, up, down, green, blue. Any judgment that you can have about something does not mean to let go of discernment.
Right.
All right, please hear the difference in those two words. Discernment is simply, is this appropriate or inappropriate for me? Judgment is, that's bad, that's good, and it's, you're pushing it out here. Discernment goes inward, judgment goes outward, though you will turn it in on yourself very quickly.
And with judgment, you just don't, you can tell, you know this saying, you don't know what's going on with somebody else until you walk in their shoes. So somebody may be very, flip you off in traffic, or be very rude to you at a store or something like that, or run into you or knock you over and not say excuse me, and you just don't have any idea what they've been through that day or even in their life. And so we might have behaviors we prefer, discernment, that we may choose not to be around that person on a regular basis if it's somebody you know, because it's not good for you. But that doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
It just means they have their path. And the other time I think that we make judgments is those that aren't awake like we are. Right? Those silly 3D people, they just don't understand. I'm spiritual and they're not. And I think I said this before. I was in a metaphysical group and a guest speaker was there. And the lady, we were doing a Q&A, and the lady stood up and her question was, when are those people going to be gone so that the spiritual people can be here without them? And I thought, oh my word.
Can I be one of them, please?
Judgment. She wanted to get rid of those people, and the speaker literally was like, who are those? Who are those people?
Who is this other you speak of?
Who is this? I don't get it. But I just thought that was a funny thing, but a lot of people think like that, and we all do. We're all in this human form, and what we're talking about is as we continue to raise our vibration and as we continue to connect more with oneness, how do we function in this space of the game? And how do we keep moving up the levels of the game, right, as well? So non-judgment is one of the ways, definitely.
It is. Another one that follows right on the heels of non-judgment is what I call radical acceptance. Right? Radical acceptance. Letting everything be as it is with no need to make it different. That is radical acceptance. If you think being non-judgmental is a challenge, try this one for a week.
It's hard. It's not as easy.
It's very hard because we all have preferences. They may actually just be physical preferences. I prefer cool air to warm air, but that's just on the days it's warm. On the days it's cool, I probably like warm air better. It's the human experience. But radical acceptance. If my mind, and this is what the mind does, all right, I'm going to say this very gently, and we'll have a whole other class about it some other time. You can actually live your life without your mind and without a single thought. You really can. All right? Because what happens is the mind and the brain is here Where you're getting your information from is here. Right? Your thoughts are just clouds going across. Right? There have been times, and I'll talk about our previous business where I was very immersed in tech, and I had to learn more about coding than I ever wanted to learn.
Right.
But there are times where you're just going along, and nothing will work in the way you think it should work. And if I would just take a deep breath, step back, quiet my mind, I would then hear, "There's your mistake, do it." That's not coming from my brain. It's not coming from my eyes being focused on a screen. It's literally, my eyes were closed, my mind was quiet, the information dropped. All right, you can do that. Radical acceptance is where we started with this. When you move out of your mind, you're no longer looking at going, "I like that, I don't like that. Ooh, well, oh, they're wearing the same color. They must be familiar with each other." All the different things that we do that we try then to change it. Right? So radical acceptance. Take a deep breath of everything, look at it, and go, "This is as it is. I have no need for it to be different."
Well, and the other part of that is we have an ego. The ego is and always will be a part of this experience, and the ego is the key to play the game.
But it is necessary.
It's necessary. It's what runs our body. It's what makes us work. Makes us our lives. It's about, as you move up into different levels on the game, it's about not allowing the ego to be completely in charge. So it's not getting, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, I gotta get rid of my ego. I'm working on getting rid of my ego. I'm gonna meditate to get rid of my ego."
Radical acceptance.
Don't get rid of your ego, right. Accept your ego for the role it plays inside the game. Just don't let the ego be the part that's the everything. Just understand it's a piece. It's a tool. The ego is a tool to run the body, to interact with another being, all of that. It's not a bad thing or a good thing, radical acceptance, non-judgmental, it just is. Now, how do I live my life not living from my ego, but instead living from my higher self, living from source? How do I live from source and have an ego to function every day and go to my job and do what I need to do? And that's the balance. So you realize ego helps you get in the car and drive and get from point A to point B and, communicate and the things you need to do, but you put it in its place while you're still connected to oneness or source, rather than allowing ego to run the show. Because ego, if out of control, is the part that has all the judgments, is the part that believes this is it, right? This duality is all there is nothing else. Believes it is everything. I am the body, I am source, I am everything, and it's not. It's a player, it's a part of the game. It's not, it's part of your avatar. It's not the actual player, right? And radical acceptance says, I don't really know the big picture. I don't know. I don't know what role you're here to play, or you're here to play, or I don't know that. So I accept where you are. So as a psychotherapist, one of the challenges, and especially new therapists coming out of school, is they get really frustrated with the fact that their clients aren't making enough progress. They aren't listening to them. They aren't moving as fast as they want them to move.
Wait, they didn't do your homework?
Yeah, right. They didn't do the homework I gave them. What do I do? And you have to get to the point where you just go, you're just a facilitator on their path. You're just here to help guide them. It's still their path. You're not running their life. And our families try to do that, right? Our parents always try to run our lives. Our significant others try to run our lives. Our children try to run our lives. Our grandchildren, and so it really is a matter of, how do I take back that control myself and understand that they're on their path and they can have their path the way they are. And so being able to have that low wall that you step over and you kind of watch it as an observer, that observer self, helps you tremendously in accepting what's happening out there and not feeling the need to rush in and fix it or rush in and change it, right? But allow it to just play out. Now there's times that we want to be of service and we want to help out, so that's not what we're talking about. But we're just talking about mentally, how do you accept what's taking place?
I was going to ask you how you develop the observer self.
Oh no. I think it's two things. It's one,
just being aware that there is one.
Aware that there is. Two, stepping over that low wall. Understanding that I don't have to be in the midst of everything all the time, and learning to just step back. I think that's really how you do most of it for me.
And some of it actually begins with our languaging, right? There's been lots of trainings over the years that have come out there, whole training programs, Landmark being one of them, used to be EST. There's others out there that have done this, and they talk about the words you use, right? How often do we say, I feel tired, I feel sad, I feel angry? Though a lot of times we simply jump the word feel out and we go, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm hurt. Well, who is this I that is feeling those things? So become aware of the words you're using, and this is another one of the little tricks and tips of moving into 5D. We have to clean up our languaging, right? So instead, and I'm as bad about it as any of the rest of you, so do not think I'm claiming perfection here. But I try now to say, my body is tired, okay? Because that's what's tired. Or I feel hunger, or I feel hungry, okay? Which in English it's easy to do. Think German, ich habe Hunger, I have hunger, is what that means. We don't say I have hunger here, right? So we need to watch how we language it. Your languaging will become one of the most powerful tools that you have moving forward. It's always been there as important. We've just sort of downplayed it through time. The other thing
we're going to do an exercise.
I know I am. I'm not there yet.
Okay. Just reminding you.
I can read. Notice which way these notes are pointed.
Number 3. We're on number 3.
We're still on number 2. I'm still on number 2. You may be on number 3,
okay.
But but by watching your language, you begin to be able to develop that observer self. Who is feeling? What is feeling? Who is thinking? What is thinking? Where is this sensation coming from? And I will promise you, if you start looking at your ego, who is this ego? It just goes poof. It doesn't really exist. It's just a tool that allows you to motivate around in this dimension. Kind of like it's sort of like the engine in your car. Your car's not going to go anywhere without that engine or motor if it's electric. All right, it just isn't. All right, but you don't turn it on and then just step out of the car and say, go where you want. All right, we wouldn't do that whether we're in the car, not now self-driving. I know, I hear Elon Musk screaming in the background. But that's what we do with our ego. We say, okay, you got it started now, you're in charge, go. No. We have to tap into that greater self, that non-localized part of us, which is source, by the way, to let it begin to run our life and direct us. So now we'll get to number 3 on the list. And number 3 on the list is a tool that I will offer you to use when you're feeling frustrated with someone else or you can't quite get what needs to be done. Right? So again, this is a little bit of a guided imagery, and since we're not going to pair up tonight and do this with each other, I'm going to ask that you pick something in your own life, particularly a person, that you're feeling frustrated, upset, whatever it is, less than loving, perhaps. How's that? So, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and I want you to picture this person and this situation clearly in your mind. Just sit there and look at them. Take a deep breath, and as you're looking at this person, they begin to turn into a flower. Pay attention. What color is the flower? What are the petals of the flower? Is it standing upright? Is it leaning over? What is going on with this flower? Pay very attention to the flower. And now, once you're aware, fully aware of the flower, ask this flower what it needs. What does this flower need to be whole and complete and at peace? Take a deep breath. Let it out. And now, holding the memory of what this flower needs, allow the vision of the flower to fade and see the person again, and realize, short of watering them, that what you heard is probably what is needed in this situation. And even watering them may be a metaphor for simply extending love. So allow your eyes to open and come back. It's a very simple little trick. Try it in different situations. You don't have to close your eyes. You can literally just be there with them and suddenly look over and see them as a flower. See what's going on with that flower. We don't have judgments of flowers, do we? Right? Ask it what it needs. I will tell you, 8 times out of 10, you will know exactly how to settle the situation after you do that. Because you will have heard from Source what the situation requires to be whole, complete, and at peace. It's a very, very powerful tool.
So I thought of someone that I'm less than peaceful with all the time.
Really? And what did I do this time?
Yeah, it wasn't you, it was somebody else who I had judgments about, because that's what we're talking about, right? So I thought of someone I had judgments about, and when I saw them as a flower, I heard that they needed encouragement and nurturing. And so that was interesting, because then they came back to be the person, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. That's what they need. And so that was an interesting dynamic. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought that was good.
It's a very simple little tool, and it's incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's next. We want to chat just a few minutes about just some other tools that you probably already know, but just a reminder that they sound simple, but they're actually how you hold the space of the higher levels and of Source in your life every day. The first thing is being present. Again, we hear that all the time, power of now, how do you be present? But what happens too often is that we're in a situation and we aren't stepping back over that low wall, and instead what we're doing is making those judgments and thinking about somebody who hurt us in the past that was like this person, and we're projecting onto them, or or remembering a hurt in an argument with your spouse and bringing that back in, or a friend, and we're living in the past or the future. And so the more you can work at being present, at being in the moment, not allowing the past or the future to come on to the situation, the better you will be at staying in that higher vibration and being able to stay in that space of compassion for that flower, for that person or the situation.
One of the other things that goes along with staying present is when you find yourself and you're caught up in the chaos, the turmoil that's going on around you, is again, as she said, take a deep breath, step back over that low wall and ask the question, what is this really about? Right? Because there's another very simple principle at play here. I am never upset for the reason I think. Right? And I want you to hear those words. I am never upset for the reason I think. Because what happens is you get upset, you think you know what it is, and there's something totally different underneath it. Right?
So you have to remember, we're both psychotherapists, right? Both PhD psychotherapists. And so when we first started dating, it was funny because we would look at each other and go, well, how does that make you feel?
What's this really about? And it worked well between the two of us.
When the emotions were way over the top. So, I just an example, I don't remember this happening, but, I didn't put the lid on the mayonnaise right, or he didn't put the dish.
You squeeze the toothpaste in the middle, not the bottom.
Right, or you didn't put the dish in the dishwasher right, or something. And you fly off the handle, right? I can't believe you did that. We would look at each other and say, okay, what is this really about? Because it's too much emotion for this little situation. What is this really about? And when you can go, oh, it's really about blah, 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 I can let go of that and I can be present. And I can go, oh yeah, squeezing the toothpaste or doing the dishwasher wrong, it was not as big of a deal anymore.
What it does is it takes you back to radical acceptance. If I know what the issue actually is that I'm being reactive about, then I have the ability to accept it as it is. No judgment. It just is as it is. My charge is gone. Her charge would be gone shortly thereafter, because if you've ever been in an argument with someone who won't argue back, it ends really quickly.
But knowing that, understanding,
knowing that.
And that's part of that stepping over the low wall, is to step over so you see the picture clearer. So the next time you have a situation where you fly off the handle and you're like, whoa, that was a little over the top. Why did I get so upset over that little thing? Step back and just look at that and go, what might that be about? And if you can pinpoint what it's about, you can release it.
And by the way, I do not recommend you do this in a relationship unless you've warned them you're going to read. This is your way of dealing with things.
Two therapists to kind of work, as you said. We're both
former
used to
girlfriend, that led to a meltdown.
Formal folks, not a good thing, right? Yeah.
It's about you. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm not the one having the feelings or the reaction. What's this really about? And you go deeper then. And life is to be lived at height and depth. Okay, we have to have both in this world. But you can't just live on the mountaintop. You've got to get down to the bottom of the valley, because I'll be very honest, the river is probably in the bottom of the valley, not the mountain peak. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and it is about having all your emotions, but not getting so hooked into your emotions that they become your identity, as you said, that you realize they are emotions and allow them to move through like energy and motion, right? Emotions. Allow them to move through and not attach to them, as well as those judge, because that's also making judgments.
So now here we are. We're in 5D. We're being a bit more present to what's going on, both externally and internally. The next little trick that I will give you, and every single one of you have heard this over and over and over from the time you were probably about this big, may have been from lifetimes, but that is to be grateful. Okay, this again, I'm going to tie back, because radical acceptance is one that's downloaded into my head not long ago, so I'm trying to really anchor it in. So this is as much for me as it is for any of you. But by being grateful, it takes me back to radical acceptance. If I can look at a situation and go, oh, I accept this, I'm grateful that this happened, then you can move through it. You see the gifts in it. Gratitude. Every morning, I've shared this before, my morning starts with meditation. And I go in, but the first thing I do is I run through a list in my head of all the people and all the things in my life that I am grateful for. And I then add, plus the ones I'm not aware of. Right? But what that does is it starts my day every single day in a space of abundance. All right, we'll talk about manifestation some other time, but I'll give you a hint. It begins with gratitude, and it ends with gratitude.
It's a big hint.
It's a big hint. All right.
But and along those lines, I've met people that say, "Well, I have nothing to be grateful for. My life sucks," and I'm like, "Well, let's see. You have running water? Yeah. You have a roof over your head? Yeah.
Anybody trying to shoot you?
Anybody trying to kill you? No. Yeah, you have you have food on your table. Well, yeah, you have. So I think what happens is in our modern society where we get so focused on accumulating and watching commercials and all the you have to have this to be in and you have to have this, we forget all the little things. Rusty and I lived in the Republic of Panama, and not everybody had clean running water, and not everybody had a roof over their head, and not everybody had electricity or air conditioning or heat. I mean, and so for us to see that level of poverty really, really helped us be more and more grateful than we already were. Because not only that I'm grateful I'm not where they are, but I'm just grateful every day. Heck, I'm grateful for, emails and cell phones. I'm grateful just for little things,
Are you really?
A nice
cell
day.
Phones?
Well, it depends on the day. It depends on the day. A nice day outside, you walk out. Today was a beautiful day. You walk out and just breathe in the air and just be grateful for the day. So it's not about comparing yourself to someone else, but I think oftentimes we forget what we have.
We take it for granted. It's
Right.
just what we have is what we are.
I'm just used to having a car. I don't get in every day and go, wow, I am so happy I have a car. And I do, though, I have to say, I am very grateful to whoever invented air conditioning. Because the summers in Dallas are brutal if you don't have air conditioning. And so when it's 100 plus outside, I'm like, I am grateful for air conditioning and fans and clothes to wear. Just so sometimes even when you're having a bad day, find the little things. Find the small things that you can look at and be grateful for in your life. Might be a flower. Might be the nice day you have. It might be, you have shoes that don't have holes in them. I mean, it can be a lot of things, but too often we focus on what we don't have, our lack, or what we don't like. And of course, that's that judgment, right? Rather than all the good things that we have. And when we start looking at all the good things, I think it makes a big difference in your life.
I'm so glad I don't have a toothache.
Yeah, I know. I used to do corporate training, and one of the things that I would say in the corporate training was literally, wow, I just want you to know, today I'm really, really grateful I don't have a toothache. And they'd look at me like, what? And I'd say, have you ever had a toothache? You got a tooth that's rotten or needs a crown or needs something? Yeah, it hurts. And so what happens though too often is we wake up every morning and we don't think about all the things that could go wrong, which is okay, but to be grateful you don't have a toothache. I'm really grateful that I have 2 arms and 2 legs at work. I'm really grateful that my avatar does well in here, and all, just appreciating. We forget because until there's a pain. Once there's a pain, we can, complain about it, but we forget.
And sometimes it's just that we don't even know. It's so much a part of who we are, we have forgotten that that's not the case for everyone.
I know you've been with people, you've been with folks who complain about everything. I mean, everything is wrong, and this is wrong. You go to a restaurant and it's wrong, and the food is wrong, and this is wrong. I mean, there is no gratitude there at all. And then they're complaining that they have no money and that their life isn't working, and you're thinking, well, I could probably tell you why. You're focusing on all the things that are going wrong instead of focusing on the stuff that actually is going right.
But don't you know how subtle some of this is? And again, we're still spending a lot of time on gratitude because it's very important, very, very important. I said it begins and ends with it. But I'll use myself. Until I was with my former wife, not last girlfriend, former wife, who wore glasses, pretty much Coke bottles, her entire life. I had never realized I needed to be grateful for the fact that my entire life I've had 20/20 vision. I wake up in the morning and the world is clear. I wake up in the middle of the night, the world is clear. She woke up, she could not see past here if she couldn't find her glasses. Right?
Just little things to be grateful for. And then the last thing
is service.
Is to be of service. to be of service. And we think, wow, I don't have time to go volunteer at a shelter. Or wow, I don't have time to go, I have a day job, I don't have time to. That's not what we're talking about with being of service.
It can be. If you want to go volunteer at a shelter, or you want to go serve food or work with animals or whatever you want to do, that's wonderful. But don't let your ego use the excuse, I don't have time, that's too much effort, that's too big. That is not what we are talking about of being of service. Yes, we'll accept volunteers. You can come here and sweep the floor. That's good with me. I don't have to.
Feel free, volunteer.
But being of service can be as simple as smiling at the cashier at the grocery store, saying, have a nice day, to someone you're walking down the street. All right, it can just be becoming aware and acknowledging another person's being. All right, there was a story I read recently of a young lady. She was working at a restaurant, a very high-end Michelin 5-star type restaurant. She was a intern chef, basically. The chef there was sort of like Gordon Ramsay, though it wasn't Gordon Ramsay. But every day, she said, every day she came to work, there was a homeless man sitting in the alley. And he always was there. And she said, well, you know, I think I need to give him some food. But she knew she couldn't take something from the restaurant and just give it to him. So she got the ingredients and cooked him a wonderful meal. And the next day she took it and gave it to him. Homeless, remember this, been there for months every day. He said thank you and started talking to her, and she discovered he was extremely articulate and, you know, knew a lot about food. He told her the spices she had put in the food. He told her the different ingredients in the food, as he was truly a foodie, right? Homeless, looks homeless, lives homeless. The more they talked, and she kept bringing him food day after day. And finally one day he says, you know, you are the only person in the last year and a half that has even noticed me, much less been kind. Notice the people around you. Acknowledge them. Now, the rest of this story is it turned out he was from an extremely wealthy Middle Eastern family, still had his contacts at home, and said, can I borrow your cell phone? Called his family, talked to them, said thank you, gave her the phone back. The next day, 5 black SUVs pull up in front of that restaurant she works at. He gets out dressed in a you know, beautiful suit, designer suit, walks in and says, by the way, you now have your own restaurant. Okay. This is not why we're kind. We are kind because we are. Notice, acknowledge. Today we were having lunch and there was a woman behind us, and she had a young man who was working at the restaurant. He had Down syndrome, and she was being extremely friendly to him. She was a corporate exec actually for this restaurant, and we talked to her afterwards. And she says, yeah, I'm so happy you noticed what we do. And by the way, this restaurant hires these kind of people all the time because we believe it's our job to help. Well, what that did for us is we have folks who come here who may need a little help from time to time. We now have a source to say, go here, apply, see if you can get a job there. Notice, pay attention, be aware.
And along those lines, we were actually, the two of us with another friend were at a restaurant one time, and the waiter,
spiritual woman,
a very spiritual woman, and the waitress kept coming back over. So we're having a very deep philosophical conversation, and spiritual, and she kept coming back to the table. Can I help you? Do you need anything else? Do you want some water? Do you need some? And our friend got mad. We're having this really deep conversation. Why does she keep interrupting us? And we looked at her like she was crazy. And we said, she likes the energy.
She's coming to the light.
We're stopping, we're talking to her, we're seeing her, we're actually seeing her, not just going, yeah, whatever, yeah. We're stopping our conversation and going, yeah, no, thanks, I'm doing good, how are you? You know, just simple little conversation with a waitress. And she just felt that we saw her. She felt that love. She felt the energy. And so our friend just couldn't understand, like you said, spiritual woman, could not
was.
She was
wonderful.
But she
Just
didn't
had a
get
blind
this.
spot.
But she didn't get this one piece.
Right.
And this one piece was every single day you can be of service. A smile, a nice kind word, a look in their eyes and know that they're there, see them, not just look past them all the time. You know, a cashier at a bank or a store, you buy something.
Hold up 2 fingers of the person who cut you off instead of 1.
Peace, right? I was traveling again at the corporate stuff, and I was going to a rental car place, and I was in line at the rental car counter, and the woman behind the counter was just doing her darndest. I mean, it was a line of people, and they were yelling at her and all this kind of stuff, and she was almost in tears. And so, you know, I could tell she was relatively new, like she was just trying to learn it and do it all. It wasn't like she had it all together. And so when I got up to the counter, I just looked at her in the eyes and I said, take a deep breath. You are doing great. I can tell you're just learning the job. She's like, yeah. I said, you are doing great. Just breathe. We're good. Take your time. We can get through this. And I saw her, and I saw what was going on in her life, and I saw what was happening. And I helped her calm down, and she just looked at me, and she started crying. And she said, I was about to quit this job. This was going to be my last day. But thank you. Thank you for what you said. I need this job. She was actually a single mother and needed the job, but she couldn't handle the stress and everybody yelling and screaming at her. But me taking 5 minutes out of my day to really see her and to say hi and to help her have a better day made a huge difference. So it doesn't take a lot. We're not talking about a lot to be of service. We're just saying every day when you put your head on the pillow, what did you do today to make someone else's life a little bit better?
Right.
Did you smile? Did you say hi? Did you wave?
Did you pet a dog that you didn't know?
What did you do today to make someone's life a little better? And that goes back to gratitude. That goes back to non-judgment. That goes back to all the tools. And when you take all these tools that we shared today and you put them together, it helps you stay connected to Source, connected to oneness, and still play the game. Still be here. Still be in 3D while you're living from 5D and above. All right.
All right. Now, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to turn this video off. I'm going to restart it for Q&A if you have any questions. If you don't, we'll just stop it. But that way it's not quite so long.